Glensim's, the switch to lithium batteries probably evens out the weight difference, plus allegedly having to carry less fuel. The biggest issue I'm seeing on older boats is that they weren't built sturdy enough in the bow to handle the extra weight of today's trolling motors, because those suckers are heavy now. So this is talking about, different things like trolling motors, the power of a trolling motor, brushless versus brushed, and then also kind of on the same topic, the alteration of a boat being, adding a bracket, adding weight to the engine, going from a 2-stroke to a 4-stroke. Yeah, the bows on the boats and they're old. So it's taking an older boat, like a 20, 25, 30-year-old boat. Everything is, got some wear and tear on it. It's not as strong as it was when it was brand new. Some things are wood cord, the wood's starting to rot, other things like that. But now you put a trolling motor up on the front of the bow, and especially with the brushless and the constant power that you get from lithium, you talking about taking an 80-pound or 120-pound thrust trolling motor. That's a lot of torque, a lot of stress on the bow. And yeah, you could probably rip some of these older boats. You could probably lose the trolling motor, or at, that's the worst case scenario. But most of the time, you're just going to get stress cracks and stuff like that. You definitely need to have a backing plate on the bottom of the bow. And, depending on the situation, every boat's going to be different. How bad it is, the weight of the trolling motor is definitely, something going on there, but also that thrust that I was just talking about. So if you even take, it's been my experience that you can take just a piece of starboard and spread the load out, because if you just use washers on the bottom and the glass is, or the bow is starting to rot, or the glass is delaminating or getting soft, if you don't use big enough washers, it's going to pull them through. So if you take a piece of starboard, it's not going to be able to pull the washer through the starboard, and the starboard will disperse that load across a larger amount of space in the bow. So the worst thing you're going to do is see some stress cracks, but you're not going to lose your trolling motor, and it's going to work properly. If you put an aluminum plate in there, obviously that's better, but more expensive, harder to customize, and takes more effort to mess with. So unless it's really bad, I think you could probably get away with just adding starboard as a backing plate and still using fender washers on the bottom of the through bolts, mounting the trolling motor onto the bow of the boat. That's going to be a good topic. M76, I know marine engines have additional components that vehicle engines do not, but a crate 6.4 liter Hemi producing 485 horsepower is only $15,000, give or take. An outboard with the same horsepower ratings is 3 times more minimum. It is ridiculous, to be honest. I'm with you, man. This is talking about new outboards being a rich man's game, and it is. If you're buying a new outboard and you want 485 horsepower, yeah, you're going to spend way more than that, actually, because the only company producing that big of an engine is Mercury, and their 600, you're going to be about 90 to 100 grand in that engine. So 15,000, you're almost 8 times more. You're seven times more. So that's a big gap for what you're getting. Obviously, there's a lot more to it with the steering systems and the lower units and the midsections and all that, but just looking at the difference between a powerhead and the 485 horsepower Hemi powerhead, it's a big price difference. Big price difference. Captain Pepin, in early 2019, a pair of Suzuki 300s installed with rigging and props was $36,000. Now it's north of 50 grand. In just 5 years, look at how much the prices have gone up. You're talking massive inflation over here in the U.S. So not much you can do about that. That's a whole economic, political topic, talking about GDP and inflation and interest rates and the whole gamut of COVID and unemployment, how many old jobs versus new jobs. That's a whole different discussion, but things have gotten to be ridiculous. Again, talking about this topic of how much stuff costs. Yeah, everything has gone up. Everything is super expensive. Not much we can do about it. Steve Myers, 2092, the aviation community is now putting Yamaha snowmobile engines in experimental aircraft. Very reliable and tons of power for weight, 2, 3, and 4-cylinder models. I mean, I don't know that much about Yamaha snowmobiles, but anything that when you think, okay, if you have one word to think about whenever you say Yamaha, everybody's going to say reliable. And I have no reason to believe that their snowmobiles are any less reliable than the outboards. So that's super interesting. I didn't think about it, couldn't think about it. That's appreciate you telling us that. FJ Merrig, I was once told that a battery needs to be mounted vertically with the transom so that the plates in the battery do not hit each other and short out. Is this still true? So when you say vertically, so vertically is up and down, horizontally is like this. Now, the plate, if you take a battery, like, you've got a battery right here, there are plates that go up and down through different sections inside the battery. So you take this battery and you've got plates in it. So right here's a plate, right here's a plate, right here's a plate, right here's a plate, and they're all split and they're physically separated and compact. Obviously this is a lithium battery, so that doesn't weigh true with this battery, but if this was a normal battery, that's how it's set up. So your plates are like this. They're not like this. So if you take that normal battery and let's say that this is the transom, if you've got it like this, your plates are like that. If you got it parallel with the transom, your plates are like this. So you think about it, the boat going through the water like this, it's going to be constantly hitting waves like that. So the battery like this, the plates don't really risk touching each other, or they're physically separated. So, they don't really like touch each other. And the way a marine battery is built is everything's beefed up for it to be able to take that thrust. So having it like this, yeah, the plates do have a risk of hitting each other. Now, as far as whether or not the battery's going to short out based on those plates inside of it, I mean, the way a marine battery is built, because it's beefed up and it's stronger, the risk of that, it's going to take a lot of time for the battery to wear out physically inside for the plates to touch, and it's going to take a lot of abuse. So by the time that happens to where they could possibly short out within the battery, I would say you got a defective battery if that happens. In today's world, they're meant to take that abuse, and the battery's going to die because it's going to run out of cycle life before that physically happens within the battery. So is that still true? I mean, I guess theoretically, yes, that could happen, but I would say if that happens, that battery was defective before that happened, or somehow you've got a 10, 15-year-old battery that is now just depleted and worn itself out on the inside enough to where everything is now like all connected, because everything has to stay separated inside the battery, or else the battery's not going to work, because it uses a chemical reaction by separating these components in order to produce and store the power. Like I said, I guess theoretically, yeah, that could happen, but highly unlikely. So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, you can see another one over here or watch the full episode over here.